you get around to watching Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid?
I certainly did.
What did you? I'm really excited to talk about this. Because I watched Pat Garrett.
Thank you so much for that recommendation, George.
Yeah, I just tweeted about that. I watched it, and I was legitimately, you hear people say, "Who is this movie even for?" You know what I mean? And it's kind of an ironic.
I don't know.
But I watched Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and I was like, "Who is this for?" And I wasn't being derogative about it or anything. I was just I was watching. I'm like, I don't really. I feel like the movie had some kind of a secret message, but I didn't really get it.
Yes, I was reading about that.
I didn't read anything about it.
What?
I like Sam Peckinpah. I like Sam Peckinpah for the most part. I know that everyone said, and first of all, I thought there were some moments in this movie that were absolutely standout, amazing. Like I told you, the opening sequence with the Bob Dylan music, where it's cutting between Pat Garrett getting killed and a flashback to Billy the Kid, and then chickens being exploded, which is a little extreme.
Yeah.
Right. But I was like, whoa, that's really pretty wild. That's cool. That's really good editing. That's a fun idea. And the Bob Dylan soundtrack is awesome. I don't know if you like Bob Dylan.
The Bob Dylan soundtrack is awesome. Why is Bob Dylan in the movie? I don't know. His character, I don't know either. Is irrelevant. First of all, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and tell me what you thought.
By all means, you can talk about how much you love this movie. I could not stand this movie. I absolutely hated watching this. This was probably one of the most dreadful things that I've been subjected to.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I woke up this morning and I saw your text to me at 10:30 at night, and you're like, I gotta go to sleep.
I turned it off after an hour, because I was like, I knew I'm gonna fall asleep, and I watched the rest today. But I have no idea what this movie was about. I watched it. I couldn't follow it at all. Obviously, it's about Pat Garrett is after Billy the Kid, and
they used to be pals.
They used to be pals, but now they're not, and now he has to take him down. But I felt that zero connection to anything of the story, of the characters. Did I learn or feel any connection to either one of those? No. I guess it maybe makes Billy a little bit sympathetic for certain things. Yes, he has a heart of gold. He helps the Mexican family that's being attacked by the cattle rustlers.
But then I'm thinking he's like, you work for so and so, and I'm like, what? How does that guy figure that there's something to do with
the cattle farmer people? And that's apparently there's some kind of anti-capitalist message in this movie or something like that. There's an article on TCM that you can read about this movie that explained it a little bit more than anything that I had any idea what was going on in the movie. But
it's a vibes film, bro. It's all about vibing it's all about getting the vibes.
Did you think that the music, though, despite being good, and granted it's Bob Dylan and it's some of his best, it's some of his great stuff there.
I thought the music was great. Yeah.
Do you think that the music is appropriate for this movie? I didn't. It's totally distracting. It takes you out of it.
But you're thinking is it supposed to? Because this is a revisionist Western.
Revisionist Western, yeah.
And it's do you like, because I'm thinking about, I just saw Once Upon a Time in the West in the theater, which is a film when I showed it to my dad, I was like, okay, he's going to like this. This is a cool movie. He hated it. He was like, this is fucking boring. What, but have you seen that movie? Do you like Sergio Leone movies and stuff?
I do like the Sergio Leone movies, but I think there's something a little bit, at least visually appealing about those movies that I found this movie to be exceptionally ugly and dreary, and I can't shake the feeling that this just looks like 70s hippies dressed as cowboys, and they look so grimy and dirty, and it's everything that I hate about that style of filmmaking, because it's just they look so.
I thought the first half was really strong. When he's in the shootout in the cabin, I really like that. Come on out, Billy. He's in the cabin and the shootout. I thought that was great. I like the opening scene. I really like when Billy escapes from jail and he shoots the dimes at the guy and he just gets shredded with dimes. And then when he shoots the gun, it's dimes fly out of, I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. That was a cool sequence. The music is excellent. I feel like there's an Easy Rider kind of thing going on here. Do you know what I mean?
At least I like Easy Rider a lot more. Man. I like Easy Rider a lot more because I think that at least that movie is a message movie, it has a clear like thesis about what it's trying to say. And the
last
agenda.
free men in America, brother. It's hard to find freedom anymore, bro. We're hitting the open road, baby.
Exactly. We're going to go find the real America here, you know.
We're going to find the real America. That's right.
Yeah. But this movie is
the persecuted hippie.
Okay, so how much did you read into this about the production about this movie?
Not much. I'm just going off the dome of kind of what I was thinking about it. Go ahead.
So apparently this movie was like taken away from Peckinpah after he made it and re-edited completely without his approval, and he disowned the movie when it was initially released. So I don't know which version you watched or I watched, because there are different versions out there. I
think I watched the short version because I is the director's cut. It's like 20 minutes longer available. I think I watched the theatrical cut.
So the original, for years, according to this TCM article, for years the only available version was the studio approved edit, which the director disowned. Recently, Warner Video released the studio version on a DVD along with the director's cut of the film, which is closer to his original intention. But it doesn't really explain what the difference between the two is and how there was a big point of contention between Peckinpah and the guy that was the head of MGM at the time. Apparently his name was Aubrey. And this guy was a real jerk to everyone. He like prided himself on getting big name talent, directors and writers and actors. And then he would just stick his, finger in their eye and change everything. And it was not a good idea. Not a good result.
Not with good results. Because the movie feels like it's kind of aimless for a while. It's like, okay, Billy the Kid gets brought in, he escapes from jail, and then it's just like Pat Garrett has to go get him because it's like, and actually that was an interesting thing I was thinking about, like just the this is not the right word, but like the effervescence of the idea of like being a part of the law. It's like, well, I'm wearing the badge now, so I got to do this because that's what I'm doing, even though I don't really believe in it. And then like he would just be like, all right, you're the sheriff now. You got it. Like he goes to that guy's family. Billy the Kid goes to that guy's house, and he's sitting there, and you could tell that if the guy hadn't been given the tin star, he would have just broken bread with Billy, and that would have been it. But he goes, well, I'm the sheriff now, so that means, or the deputy, so that means we got to go outside and do our 10 paces. You know what I mean? So I guess you could see something in there about like capitalism or something like co-opting people and making them part of the system or something like, you know what I mean? Right. That old saw,
I think
that kind of that hippie stuff.
You need a little bit of coherence to that.
Yeah. I'm going to play a little, like some clips just to be next to us. So if people were watching, they can kind of get an idea of what the movie is like.
It sounds like he was pretty, raging alcoholic.
That I did know. Sam Peckinpah was a raging alcoholic, and I've heard like anecdotes about him where he would come to the set and be absolutely hammered. Right?
Yes, that's what this article.
Who was the other guy that would get totally hammered? Directed the Maltese Falcon. Well, you know what I'm talking about. He was the director. John Huston. Yeah, John Huston and Humphrey Bogart used to just get absolutely hammered all night long, right? And Truman Capote said they used to drink like famished water buffaloes, right? Which I always thought was funny. But Sam Peckinpah used to get so drunk, he'd get there in the morning and he'd sit in his director's chair like this, right? And like say, cinematographer was like, people would come visit the set and they would say, look at him. He's thinking about what the shot's going to be. The guy goes, he wasn't thinking at all. He was just like trying to sleep off in a massive hangover from the night before. And he was waiting for someone to come shoot him up with vitamin C and water. Right. And he goes, and then they would just bolt him and he'd go, boop, I'm back. And he would just get into directing. Right. But have you seen
based on these clips you're showing, people are probably thinking, oh, wow, this looks like a really action packed, intense
this
movie.
Looks like a badass
looks great.
Movie.
This movie looks great.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like a slim minority of what the movie is.
But it's
then the most random scenes of Pat Garrett getting a bath with the prostitutes and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't really know what we were doing with.
I mean, like, what are we doing? What is this? Why are we dragging this out?
And then you have that guy show up who's kind of like I'm the lawman guy that from the Kettle Ranchers that's here to make sure you're going to do the job, and then he just is kind of there and doesn't do anything. And like, he's just kind of disapproving of Pat Garrett. But like Pat Garrett, did you like James Coburn in the movie? I thought like the movie, he's great. Like you don't often see James Coburn in a leading role like that.
And I like Kris Kristofferson a lot too.
He looks weird without a beard though.
Yeah, but the actors are fine, but there's just something about the material here that's just lacking, and the movie looks awful. It just looks bad.
I would really disagree with you. I don't think that's true. I think we got a lot of great moments with like the magic hour where people are walking through the sunset, but then there was lots of parts where like they would go to that one little shitty town. And then they would be there, and then they would leave, and then you'd be like, "Where's Pat Garrett? Oh, he's back at the shitty town." But like he left all his guys there, and then came back, and I'm like, what's going on? Right?
I don't know what's going on.
Like this scene I liked where they play Knocking on Heaven's Door, and this, who's this actor? You know who I'm talking about. This guy. He gets shot and he's dying, and they're playing Bob Dylan music. Like, this is awesome. Sorry. This looks ugly to you?
Not these scenes, but other scenes. Just
who's this actor?
This movie would benefit from being restored a little bit. I think if it looked a little bit cleaner, it would help. I was going to say before we move on, because I don't have much else to say about this wretched film. Sorry. Is that I found it interesting. Peckinpah obviously loved Westerns and did his own take on that genre, but his career before that, he worked on some of the biggest Western TV shows of all time and contributed scripts to them. So apparently he worked on Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, The Rifleman, Zane Grey Theater, and then I'm not super familiar with Broken Arrow or Klondike, but he worked on those too. So
wasn't that a John Woo movie, Broken Arrow, with John Travolta and Christian Slater?
Very well, maybe.
Adaptation of a show?
A Western from 1956 to 1958. So
okay. I'll tell you, I wouldn't have called the movie wretched necessarily, but you see that Sam Peckinpah, he did so much TV writing, he got all that boring shit like plot out of his system.
But I'm sorry, that's the stuff I like. I'll watch an episode. I'll watch the boring episode of Gunsmoke over this. So
have you seen The Wild Bunch?
Yeah, but not in a long time.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen it in a while. It's one of those movies that you're supposed to see, and I think that with Peckinpah, he basically invented the squib blood explosion deal, and there was a lot of great squibs in this movie. I will say
there was. The actual fight scenes were fine. It's just you got to have something to string together in between there.